Should be good.
All right. I'm Michelle Rehill, Chair of the Library Trustees. I call the meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. I will now read the Governor's advisory regarding remote meetings. This open meeting of the Library Board of Trustees is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2022, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency signed into law on March 29, 2023. All members of the Library Board of Trustees are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The Act allows Library Board of Trustees to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. I will now conduct roll call attendance. When I call your names, please state that you are present. Brittany Burns.
Brittany Burns here.
Mitch Cohen.
Mitch Cohen, I'm here.
Pat Fonts.
Pat Fonts present.
Thank you. Jim Hogan.
Jim Hogan here.
Jocelyn McElhenney.
Jocelyn McElhenney here.
Beth Samus.
Beth Samus here.
Richard Tucker.
Richard Tucker here.
And Michelle Rehill is also here. Excellent. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the March 12th meeting. Would someone like to make a motion or a comment about the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
I'll second.
Okay,
Sorry,
and sorry.
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Me, Jim.
Oh, yeah, good, thank you.
And after I did that, I realized that there is a note. I wrote myself a note that there's an A missing from Beth's last name. So, sorry.
I will correct that.
Thank you. So other than the giving Beth back her A, do a roll call vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes with the correction. Brittany Burns.
Brittany Burns, aye.
Mitch Cohen.
Mitch Cohen, aye.
Pat Fonts.
Pat Fonts, aye.
Jim Hogan.
Jim Hogan, aye.
Jocelyn McElhenney.
Jocelyn McElhenney, aye.
Beth Samus. Oops.
Beth Samus, aye.
Thank you. Richard Tucker.
Richard Tucker, aye.
I also agree. The motion passes to approve the minutes as corrected unanimously. We'll move on. And just because I forgot to say this at the beginning when we went through the attendees, I forgot to say, and we also have the library director, Jen Brunel, with us. Also present. Thank you.
Also present, yes.
All right. Second item, FY24 appropriations report for, oops, can't read it upside down, for March. Does anyone have any questions or comments about it? Nothing. Okie dokie. Then we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the library director's report.
I don't have anything that didn't make it into the report. So does anybody have any questions about anything that was in here? Yes.
Just curious about I know you couldn't get the circulation report in, which is fine. I'm curious if it was a technical issue or if we'll get an update at some point later.
Yep, you'll get an update.
Numbers.
Yep, you'll get an update. If you want, I can send it out. Actually, I think it might have been available today. So I can send it out tomorrow morning.
Yeah, whenever you have it. No rush.
It's
Thank
one
you.
of those, when our meetings come before the double-digit days of the month, it's hard to get. Sometimes those are the things that just don't pop up right away. I expect them, like the machine should know, it's the first of the month, give me those numbers. And they don't do it. I want to echo your thanks, Jen, to the facilities manager, Sean Thompson, and DPW director, Scott Charpentier, for all of the help that they've been given on the building, dealing with all of the various and sundry systems.
If not for them, I would never do anything other than facilitate repair people and coordinate repairs of the building. So, yeah, I owe a lot to them. They're great.
Yes. Yeah, I'll echo that, from not just the library, but from the wider perspective, having a dedicated town facilities coordinator for all of the municipal buildings is just been fantastic. Very worthwhile.
All right.
And this has nothing to do with anything, but I actually think the town looks better than it has looked in years. The gardens and the memorials, and I think everything looks really, really, really nice as we're moving around town.
I agree with you.
Okay. Shall we move on to the new business, which starts with policy updates?
Sure. All right. So the administrative committee or subcommittee did just meet, and we are recommending passing over the volunteer policy for now. There's a few edits that I need to make that are a little harder to speak out loud and have everybody follow along. So I'd rather just make those edits and send it out for next month. So we have the child safety policy. When we met, there were two sort of grammatical changes to the policy. There are two different references to parent/caregiver, and it really should just say caregiver. Parent is redundant in that, and we had tried to remove all of the references to parent/caregiver, and I missed two. Otherwise, under responsibility for children using the library, the last sentence should say children age 10 and up, not children 10. In general, the changes here were to remove a lot of the language that is not really a policy language. There's a lot of stuff in here that just sort of is general guidance for parents that really doesn't need to be in our policy. And we added a section sort of defining what a drop-off program is for children and what is expected there. Because that's the only set of circumstances where children under the age of 10 can be in the library without the direct contact supervision of their caregivers. So we just wanted to make that a little bit more explicit as to what's expected in that type of programming. Did anybody have any questions?
I do. It's just something you said a minute ago about the age. I just want to get it for the minutes, and I'm having trouble finding where it is in the it was age 10, something about age 10.
Yep. So if you look right above, do you see the section, the bold text that says children left unattended after library hours?
Yes.
The sentence directly above that says children 10 and up. It should say children age 10 and up.
Mine says children 10 and up.
Yes, there should be the word age in between children and 10.
Oh, okay, age, okay.
Yep.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Excellent. Does anybody have anything that they want to say? Any questions that they have on this policy? Any discussion? If not, I would,
I have something that I didn't think of in our meeting, and I apologize. It's the title, Child Safety Policy. And I wonder about the word safety, because the policy is really more about supervision. I mean, for safety reasons, but I don't know.
I am not opposed to changing the title of it. If you can think of something that works. Honestly, I just went with, I think it's what it was called before and what libraries generally have for this type of policy, the name, but
No, if that's familiar language to people, I'm fine with it. I just, it was kind of
you're right.
over promising.
It could say unattended children policy.
I mean, it could just
Not
be child
entirely, yeah.
supervision policy.
Fine with that
It's
too.
not entirely for just unattended children. It's
Right.
Discusses,
mhm.
how the parents are supposed to attend to the children. I understand that, safety is, supervision has more of a feeling of we're watching you.
Mm.
And it feels a little off-putting. Safety is just, and then take it from there. But I'm open to anything that makes everybody feel better.
I'd like to make sure that the assumption isn't that library staff are responsible for supervising children who are left at the library, et cetera, et cetera. That's not their job. Their job is maintaining the safety of everyone in the library. So I'm comfortable with the title as it is.
I think I agree. Like I said, if it's standard library
Yeah.
language and, policy language in multiple libraries, I don't see why not. All right. Any other questions or comments about it? If not, I would like someone to make a motion to accept the policy as presented with the one.
I would move to accept the policy.
Jim moves. Will someone second?
I second.
Second.
Oh, Pat.
Okay.
All right. I'll do the roll call vote. All those in favor of accepting the child safety policy as presented, Brittany,
Brittany Burns, I.
Mitch,
Mitch Cohen, aye.
Pat,
Pat Ponce, aye.
Jim,
Jim Hogan, aye.
Jocelyn,
Jocelyn McCallany, aye.
Beth,
Beth Samus, aye.
Richard,
Tucker, aye.
and Michelle Wehill also says aye. The motion passes unanimously. All right. I'm having trouble keeping track of my policies here.
We've done a lot of them this year.
All right, so we're going to do the use of library property for soliciting, fundraising, or other such uses policy. Did I get that right? Okay.
Yes, that one's a
Does
mouthful.
anybody? Yes. Does anyone have anything to say about this one?
I have a question. Jen, in the second paragraph, the second sentence, you say, with the exception of the Friends, the library does not permit the use of the library property for fundraising programs. Then the next paragraph says, but we allowed donation drives, isn't that a fundraising? I mean, shouldn't we say in that first sentence, does not permit the use of the library property for fundraising purposes except as is permitted hereafter?
Well,
Maybe.
is
Yeah.
fundraising specifically monetary, which is what we're not allowing, whereas donation
Right.
drives are material.
Right. And donation drives, we specifically call out that we don't accept monetary donations as part of a donation or donor donation drive. Now I can't talk.
No, I don't get what you're saying.
Yeah.
What's the distinction with donations?
So a donation drive would be material. So for example, we just did one for the Northborough Youth Soccer.
Not donation of funds.
Right. And we specifically in this policy say we don't take funds. So
Let me
that's
see,
what
is
we're trying to.
donation defined like that?
What if we added the word material donations?
Yeah. I mean, because I read donations, you could donate money,
Mhm.
you could donate chairs, you could donate clothes.
Yeah.
Other common language in this space is product donation or in-kind donation is other language you can use in place of just the generic donation so that there is even further. And I'm sorry, I didn't think of that. I knew what the language meant, so it didn't occur to me to question it. So sorry that we didn't catch this in the previous meeting tonight.
I'm glad that we're catching it now, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jen,
I'm
do
sorry,
you want to
Jocelyn.
cover the other changes that we had made?
Yep. Michelle, is that okay? We did there was 2 small changes that we made in the committee meeting that might.
I just wanted to know what word Jocelyn said, what term she used for the donation drives. You said
Did we go with
something like
product?
We didn't. I proposed 2 potential changes. One is product donation drive or in-kind donation drive. Either one typically
Or you could
means
say and or. You could say and or, right?
You could.
Yeah.
Property and
or in-kind donation drives. Okay.
Yeah, I think we could just pick one because they kind of mean the same thing.
Okay. Is in-kind the more official term?
It is.
Okay. We will use that one.
Okay. And what other things did you want to point out?
In that same paragraph, right at the bottom of it, there's a bold text that says alignment with library procedures. It should say misalignment. And further down in that sentence, strike or political. That word should come out. We're not expressly forbidding political. It would be unusual for an in-kind donation drive that was political, but we can think of examples that would be in a gray area. So we don't want to include that word because it gets muddy. So really the only thing that activities that are purely commercial in nature is really how that should read. And Jim, if you would like, I can send you a copy of the revision to this paragraph.
Yeah, that'd be really helpful. Thank you.
Yes. So the sentence would read misalignment with library procedures or activities that are commercial in nature.
Okay.
So, and in general, just a comment, this was one policy that had come before you a few months ago, and there were some very good questions and some great feedback about making this align a little bit better with the freedom of speech and the Constitution. So what we have done is just more explicitly stated what is that, you know, what is legal, what is acceptable, and just provide a very few number of caveats to that, just to balance people's First Amendment rights with people's right to use the library in a private and quiet way. So really, we just made a distinction between common areas of the library and areas where people would be expecting privacy and quiet. So the stacks and the study rooms and things like that. So we're hoping that it's a much stronger policy than the original draft.
I'm gonna make a compliment on that I was one that provided some feedback along those lines with the original draft, because I've run across this situation through some of the other things I'm involved with in town government, that we as a library are not allowed to completely prohibit political speech, but we can focus the areas where it is permitted and areas where it is not. And that wasn't in the earlier draft. And I think the way this is put together is excellent.
Thank you. Yeah, libraries traditionally are places where we want to promote and encourage free speech and people being able to gather for sharing of ideas and things like that. So we certainly didn't want to pass a policy that was inadvertently sort of limiting people's expression of speech or their ability to sort of interact with the government in any way. So thank you for your comments and your questions, because it led to a much better policy.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the use of library property policy? If not, I would be happy to hear a motion to accept the policy.
I move to accept the policy with the changes as presented.
Second.
All right. Okay, that was Beth moved. And was that you, Mitch?
Yeah, Mitch with the cold. Yes.
Yeah, really far away. That's got to be Mitch. All those in favor of accepting the motion as amended, for the policy as amended? Brittany,
Brittany Burns, aye.
Mitch,
Mitch Cohen, aye.
Pat,
Pat Ponce, aye.
Jim,
Jim Hogan, aye.
Jocelyn,
Jocelyn McElhenney, aye.
Beth,
Beth Thomas, aye.
Richard,
Rich Tucker, aye.
I, Michelle Rehill, also vote in favor. The motion passes unanimously. And we did agree that we are not doing the volunteer policy yet because there were extensive changes that would be difficult to convey at this point. So that brings us to the item, the appointment of the nominating committee. The nominating committee is it an ad hoc committee? It only needs to meet once to nominate the chair of officers, the slate of officers. And I am appointing Beth, Pat, and Brittany to be on that committee. Beth, since I said your name first, you get to be the chair
Okay.
of that committee. And the expectation is that you will nominate a chair, vice chair, treasurer, and secretary, and present the slate of officers at the May 14th meeting. And we will vote on that slate of officers at our annual meeting, which will be on June 11th, 2024. And a reminder, as this is a public meeting, an agenda must be posted. So I believe that concludes my part of the new business. The next meeting of the trustees will be May 14th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Is this also a remote meeting? Yes,
believe it
okay.
is.
And it
I
will
believe
be,
that's how you had it, yeah.
yeah, we've met in person recently. We spread them out. All right, is there any other business that anyone would like to bring up before the board?
Couple of quick things. Last night's select board meeting, we officially reappointed Jocelyn and Michelle for another 3 years each. So thank you.
Yay!
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
I've been
much.
worrying about
There's
that.
no doubt about how that would go. Of course, you are on the sheet of other that we didn't even need to go through in detail. I know there remains open one vacancy, so hopefully we will find someone to fill that vacancy before too long. I also want to make mention that at last night's select board meeting, we went through the zoning articles that are proposed for town meeting. Jen's aware of this. I had brought some concern about a zoning article that permits maker spaces in town, but outlaws them in all but industrial areas. Libraries frequently have maker spaces. We don't have one now in our library. So I've had some back and forth, both with Jen and with Lori Connors, the planning director, to make sure, particularly that our library would not be prohibited from having a makerspace or makerspace type equipment and service offerings if we wanted to do that in the future. Most people seem to be saying everything is okay. It's not quite at my level of satisfaction. I'm certain that the intent of the bylaw is not to prohibit this. The intent of the bylaw is very clear that apparently right now we don't allow sort of dedicated makerspace businesses in town, and this would allow them in the industrial zone. So that's an improvement. But I want to make sure that there isn't an ancillary issue in that regard. So it is, if all those questions get answered before town meeting, you won't hear me make a sound. If not, it is conceivable that there might be an amendment or something like that to particularly exclude the library or particularly exclude maker spaces under a certain square footage area, something like that, from the prohibition in the downtown business areas that the library and other businesses are within. So I want to make sure that the trustees were aware and wouldn't be surprised if that happened at town meeting. And also about town meeting, as I think it was in your report, Jen, that there are two important positions that are in the budget for approval at town meeting. The most important of which is an assistant library director, which I'm very, very happy has made it so far and really hasn't experienced much commotion about that. So please attend town meeting. Please support the town budget. Please support everything else too while you're there, but in particular with regards to the library, the town budget will help us greatly.
And article, I will find it. It is in my report, but there is one that includes HVAC upgrades to the library. So please, that's worth attending to support as well.
Point. Yes.
Article 18.
Thank you. I have too many pieces of paper in front of me. And what's that date again, Mitch?
The 22nd of April and very likely the 23rd. Some years there is, well, can we get it all done in one night? And this year as well, can we get it done in two? I think we can get it done in two. But there's no reason to believe it will only be one night. So please plan to come for both nights. We do need a quorum of at least 100 registered voters both nights in order to conduct business. We do the financial articles first and then the zoning articles, and where the breakpoint will be, it depends on how much arguing there is over some of the earlier articles.
I think that Tim has done a great job. He came up with little videos that kind of explain each warrant article. And I imagine the time that it took him to do that was pretty substantial, but I really appreciate the effort that he went to make those a little more understandable for people ahead of time so that people aren't trying to process what the warrant, like what the articles are, like while they're voting on them. So
yeah, we on the board are trying to make a real commitment to make town meeting more approachable to newcomers and people that are not familiar with the ins and outs of all of the details of the process up until that point. So this is one avenue that we suggested, and he was happy to jump on board to do something like this, which is great. Another difference about this town meeting is we will be voting by clicker. So everyone will be given a little remote control to afford some both privacy and certainty in the counting process without somebody having to go count the cards that people are holding up. Some people wonder whether or not how accurate that is. I think it's fine, but this will have an additional level of comfort in that process. And so I think there's going to be a little video on how that works. And tomorrow morning at the senior center, there will be a demo of that also at 10 o'clock.
That speeds things up so beautifully.
Yeah, I know a lot of other towns have started to
Yeah.
use that.
Yeah.
We approved that a couple months ago, so I'm very excited about it.
Keep
And
our
of
fingers
course-
crossed.
Yes, and the warrant is on the town website as well as this nice little citizens guide to town meetings. There's some information I saw in there about the clickers. The links to the videos are on there too. And we always have copies. If somebody wants to come by and grab a paper copy of any of that, we're happy to make those available.
All right.
Michelle, will you be at town meeting? Should there be any library related questions?
You couldn't make me miss it.
Wonderful.
I mean, unless you trip me in the parking lot on my way in.
No, I'll drag you.
I'll
Me up
carry you in,
in first aid
Michelle.
kit, you'll be fine.
I'm probably going to have enough to answer for at this town meeting that also want to answer any library questions.
All right, I'll be there. I'll have it for you. All right. If there is nothing else that we need to discuss, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Would anyone like to do that?
I will move to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mitch. I expect you to be first. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting? Brittany,
Brittany Burns, aye.
Mitch,
Mitch Cohen, aye.
Pat,
Pat Fonts, aye.
Jim,
Jim Hogan, aye.
Jocelyn,
Jocelyn McElhenney, aye.
Beth,
Beth Thomas, I.
Richard,
Parker, aye.
and I, Michelle Wehill, also vote in favor of adjourning the meeting at 7:37 p.m. And good night, Kate.
Hi, Kate.
Hi, everyone.
Night.
Good night, all.
Good
Bye.
night.
Good night, guys.
Good night.